We begin this morning with President Bola Tinubu's signing of the 2023 supplementary budget of 2.17 trillion naira into law to address the nation's urgent security and economic needs. He signed the Supplementary Appropriation Act 2023 in his office at the State House in the presence of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, and the Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zacchaeus Adedeji. The supplementary budget had generated controversy with some items, including a yacht, but Bagudu says the largest chunk of 605 billion is going into security to strengthen the nation's defense. A lot to talk about this, Dr. Bati.
Well, I mean, at last, the supplementary budget has been signed. The supplementary budget had been very controversial because of certain line items in that budget. And you mentioned, part of it, but basically, the 5 billion that was allocated for yacht, which was eventually transferred to student loans, added to student loans by the National Assembly. The second thing, of course, the vehicles for the Office of the First Lady, 1.5 billion. The 2.9 billion for the purchase of new vehicles, operational vehicles for the villa. The 1.5 billion for the renovation of the residential quarters of the Vice President. The 2.5 billion, reserved for the renovation of the President's quarters, and all of that quite controversial. But in any case, as it turned out, the National Assembly passed the bill expeditiously, and we now have this. However, I think the explanation by Minister Bagudu and also by presidential spokesperson Ajuri Ngelale has shed more light on this. According to Minister Bagudu, about 605 billion out of that budget is going for security purposes. Then about over 300 will be devoted to infrastructure. I think one of the things that he also pointed out is money for student loans, and also the president had promised federal government workers, I think it's 25,000 naira each or 35,000 naira each from September to November. And then there's also another allocation for poor and vulnerable households, about 15 million, households that will be targeted. So that gives some substance to it, but Ajuri Ngelale further gave a breakdown in terms of percentages, 35%, 36%, 32% for infrastructure, for security, for palliatives and all of that. But in any case, the budget, just 7 weeks. The life cycle of the budget is just about 7 weeks. But what we have seen is that, this particular budget generated a lot of interest. But it's not enough to just pass an appropriation or a supplementary budget. How do you cash back it? That is also important. And we hope that at the same time, we'll get the details in due course of the appropriation bill for 2024. Because one of the things that the Tinubu administration has promised was that it will keep to the budget cycle and not stay out of it. So even if it is just 7 weeks, I think Nigerians will also be interested in budget performance, what is done. There was accountability, from the governance side of things.
I mean, a lot has to be said, and a lot has come out of this supplementary, budget. I think it was the candidate of the Labour Party that was speaking and talking about supplementary budgets are for things that are of more pertinent need. And that's why it is sad this morning that we finally passed the supplementary budget, where part of the need is for things around, the presidential villa, fixing things here and there, buying more cars for the First Lady, even though it's not a constitutionally recognized position, and many other things that went in, and most importantly, the yacht. And I'd like to stretch the yacht conversation further. I think there should be more investigation because there's more that meets the eyes. From removing the $5 billion for the yacht, we now hear the yacht's already in the country, and we're hearing all sorts and we're not clear. So I would like this morning, the Senate has said they're going to look into the yacht matter. Let's even get a proper historical antecedents to this matter. Probably we trigger FOI, we look into it, every detail possible, because there's something more than what meets the eyes as regards this yacht issue. And also the other part, yes, there's some good parts to it. The award, for workers till the end of the year. Also, they also talked about, conditional cash transfers and things like that. The student loan too is already a very important part. But the big question about the student loan is, have we gotten the mechanism of governance right? The student bank that we're going to set up, education bank, how is it even going to run? How are we going to deal with things like defaults? If it's going to start in January, and we already get into the middle of, to the first couple of weeks in November, have we itemized all of that, or we're going to work in that in the month of December? Also, the spending for defense. Yes, spending goes into defense, but a lot of people say we want to see a reduction in crime and criminality also in our country. And some will also argue that you can't even spend enough on defense, that we're not spending enough on defense. But really, it's about the outcomes we want to see as regards the supplementary budget. Also, funding of the budget. We all know that our finances as a nation has been in dire straits. How do we fund it? How do we look at it effectively? Is this also going to be part of the loan we are collecting from the budget support from World Bank? Are we going to take part of that money from there to be able to fund this? How is the money going to be disbursed? What's the accountability threshold? These are the many questions we'll have about the supplementary budget. Also stretching the conversation further, the budget performance. Because most of the time, budget performance will hover around a little over 50% to the 60% percentile. What's going to be the performance of this? How much do we even have in our arsenal? Which things are going to take priority in all of this? That's the big question we need to ask. But all in all, what we constantly call for is a great level of accountability. When you look at it, I don't know why our leaders cannot take a haircut when they say people are suffering. While speaking here in one of the interventions, I had made mention of number 24 Sussex Drive, the official home of the Prime Minister of Canada, that because of $40 million to fix it, most prime ministers have just left it because they know there's going to be a backlash by the people. At the time Nigeria is saying, let's take a haircut, renovating presidential homes that the president will hardly live in, probably in Lagos and some other parts of the country, when you look at it, it begs many questions. Can we divert that money into many other things for the use of the people? Can we make this about the people? And some have even argued that even when the president even visits Lagos, most of the time he puts up in his own private residence, which he has ample of. So this presidential lodge in Lagos and all of that, it just begs many, many questions. But we should be careful. The people are watching. Let's make accountability and integrity the order of the day. I wish us a lot of luck. God bless Nigeria. The governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress in Kogi State, Usman Ododo, is calling on security agencies to release chieftains of the party who were arrested in Kogi East on Tuesday. Ododo says that the raid on their residence and destruction of property are source of concern, is urging security agencies to be fair to all and ensure security of lives and property.
My members have been arrested, some of my leaders, even in my community this morning, they have picked not less than 7 of my members. I allow them to do their work. I will not interfere with their investigation. I believe by the time they are done with their investigation and none of them is found guilty, they will be released. I have been invited severally by security agencies. I have been honoring their invitation. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. And I'm ready to honor their invitation at any point in time. I don't breed criminals. I don't breed thug. I don't have one. I have advised my supporters not to engage in any criminality because I don't condone it. Whoever that is found guilty should be dealt with. But as it is now, my member they have picked, I still based it on allegation. Let them do their investigation, and I believe they will do that without bias. And as soon as they are done, they will be released. But in a situation where security agents are arresting, harassing, and detaining my members without recourse to the offense they have committed, I think I call on them to release our members and face those criminals that went to Kogi local government to Kotokarifi to kill one of our members, the innocent Khadijat. What are they doing to get them arrested? That is what they should focus on.
Okay, Dr. Abati?
Well, I mean, Usman Ododo, candidate of the APC in the governorship election in Kogi State. Well, some people will say, well, it's curious. He's talking about the opposition. But it's the APC that is in government in Kogi State. So, and it's also the APC that is in power in Abuja. So there is a question to be raised there. However, the other part of it is that when it is election time, whether it's off-cycle or general election, and you hear stories about party leaders being arrested, you are bound to be suspicious. But he has affirmed publicly that there are no criminals, no thugs in his camp. I think the thing to do is to get lawyers to liaise with the police that may have arrested these persons and to find out. He himself is talking about investigation. What exactly did they do? I find it difficult to believe that the police can just randomly 2 days to election, 2-3 days to election, go into a community and just pick some community leaders. So the investigation that Mr. Ododo is asking for, I think it's in order. However, what all this says is that the security agencies have a major responsibility in this election. As was pointed out clearly during the signing of the peace accord yesterday in Imo State, where the Inspector General of Police was represented by DIG Mba. So the police, according to DIG Frank Mba yesterday, would ensure a level playing field and be fair to all parties concerned, because the police will be politically neutral. And those words, those promises made by the Inspector General of Police, as represented by Frank Mba, I think those promises are very important. And the promise should be kept, not just in Imo State, but also in Bayelsa State and also in Kogi State. And in this particular case that Mr. Ododo of the APC in Kogi State has raised, well, we should draw the attention of the Inspector General of Police to it, to ensure that, look, those persons are actually innocent as alleged.
So one thing has to be stated. It is very sad that at this point in time, the electoral process can't just go peacefully without violence. And we've built a culture of violence. And it didn't start today. I keep saying that. It dates back. Probably you want to hazard a guess. We had first sort of like leading up to post-colonial elections, 12 December 1959. Those elections were marked by violence. We all remember how people from a certain political party could not even campaign in some regions in this country. We all remember the violence that marked that election. And since then, we've never built a culture where ideas lead the way. America had elections 2-3 days ago. How many pre-election violence, cases of pre-election violence did we hear? In fact, issues led the way in the governorship elections around Ohio and the likes. The issue was abortion laws. That's why the Democrats made a big gain. But for us here, it's always arrest of party leaders, fight here and there, violence and destruction. When are we going to learn? Mr. Dodona has made an accusation against the police that they arrested his party members. Like Dr. Abati advised, if his lawyers can go there and challenge, and they can get them released. But the mammoth violence going on in Kogi State is saddening. And all stakeholders should watch it. Look at what Natasha Akpoti suffered all this while. While she ran for governor, I keep talking about it because Natasha had no business suffering all of that. But you can see what she suffered. Was pushed around, called all sorts of names. The current candidate of the SDP said he had been attacked 30 times. And 3 of his police orderlies killed in all of these attacks. The violence is so much that we waste members of the police force. Our hard-working police officers, we just kill them unnecessarily. To the extent that the politicians will drag in the police force into this, that guy, they must start to kill them. We need to watch it. We can't build a country this way. Look at a deputy governorship candidate ranting fire, saying he was going to raise fire and brimstone that they should kill people in Bayelsa State, Mr. McIver. See, today that man is still walking free. Look at all sorts happening. But unless we collectively decide to make things right, nothing will be right in this country. I am happy INEC has said anywhere they see violence, that polling units will not be counted. I just hope they can stick to the word. And I just hope that the political actors do not use that as an alibi to now go provoke violence in those polling units because they want to cancel elections there. Elections are supposed to be a festival of ideas. But elections in Nigeria, increasingly like the 60s, are still the wild, wild west of the Western region. It's still always a case of mammoth violence and killings, just like what happened with the days of the wet year. The petrol was poured on the homes of opposition parties and their homes were set alight just because of politics. We deserve better as a nation. Imo State All Progressive Congress, governorship candidate Hope Uzodimma, and his counterpart in the Labour Party, Atan Ochonu, were conspicuously absent during the signing of the peace accord organized by the National Peace Committee in Owerri on Wednesday. The People's Democratic Party governorship candidate Samuel Anyanwu, however, showed up briefly and quickly left after he noticed that the candidates of the major political parties were absent. The former military president, Abdulsalami Abubakar, who spoke virtually, called Imo politicians to abide by the peace accord. The Independent National Electoral Commission used the opportunity to assure the people of plans to conduct a free and fair election in Imo State. At the same time, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Frank Mba, pledged maximum security.
The security agencies to let there be no intimidation of the voters, from the voters and the citizens. If you sit down at home and say you're not going to vote, then you don't complain. You have no right to complain. If the elected people come and look what in quote the rubbish they do in the West.
We want to assure voters in Imo State that our deployment is not in any way designed to intimidate voters, but rather to reassure them of a very safe and secured environment for them to exercise their franchise. We pledge in these elections to be politically neutral, to provide a level playing field for all politicians, for the citizens, and for everyone to exercise their franchise.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, the security agencies and political parties and candidates' unwavering support and dedication are necessary for the peace accord to succeed. I would like to reaffirm the Commission's commitment to holding credible and transparent elections. The Commission has done everything possible to guarantee that this weekend's governorship election in Imo State is credible.
I pray that INEC, because I need to call them out, to ensure that nobody uploads any fake results, because that is the intention of government to upload fake results, and we are saying they can't afford to do that. Let there be a free, fair and credible election.
Dr. Bati, another one.
What is important is for the various politicians involved in the race, either in Imo or Kogi or Bayelsa, to respect the letter and spirit of that peace accord, because that will be the main test, and to give peace a chance, and to understand that an election is not a do-or-die affair. Everyone should conduct themselves after the fashion of gentlemen and sportsmen, and to try to be fair. Now, that's one. the General Abdulsalami Abubakar, the chairman of the National Peace Committee, made certain cogent points. One, appealing to the youths of Imo State not to allow themselves to be used as political thugs. Because at the end of the day, if they allow themselves to be used as political thugs, they too will have contributed to derailing the democratic process. Two, he made a point. He called on the voters, the people of the electorate in Imo State, to come out en masse and vote. Voter apathy being a major concern, in all the 3 states where election will take place. And I think that's also a very important call. And then he also appealed to the security agencies not to allow themselves to be used by any political party or faction to foment trouble. Foment trouble in the sense that there have been reports in the past when there will be reports of violence and the police will just look the other way, or in fact become spectators and do nothing. Which is why it's important that the Inspector General of Police was also represented at that peace accord signing. And DIG Frank Mba made it very clear that they will ensure a level playing field for everybody. They will provide security, and they will be politically neutral. These are, for me, the important messages that came out of that signing of peace accord in Imo State. Also, the fact that INEC reassured everybody that it's ready and that the conduct of the election will be smooth without hitches. However, the other matter has to do with the absence of the Labour Party gubernatorial candidate, Senator Athan Achono, and also the governor of the state, Senator Opuzodimma, and also Senator Samuel Anyanwu of the PDP. But we were told that Senator Anyanwu and Senator Opuzodimma sent their deputy governorship candidates. But the organizers of the Peace Accord, the National Peace Committee, said, look, no, you can't sign the Peace Accord by proxy. Well, I don't understand that because it's a joint ticket. So if the deputy governorship candidate is available, why shouldn't he sign? Although some people will say the governor of the state should have created time to just make himself available instead of sending the deputy governor. That will have lent further weight to it. In the case of the Labour Party candidate, he and the PDP governorship candidate had complained before now that they wanted the INEC man, the resident electoral commissioner, changed. And that may be, part of the reason. I'm not speaking for Senator Achono. Maybe that's part of the reason why he decided to stay away. In the case of Senator Samuel Anyanwu, well, when he got there and he didn't see the candidates of the major political parties, I think he too decided to send his running mate, who was not allowed. But by and large, what we expect, against the background of reports of violence in parts of Imo State over time and ahead of the election, we expect all the political parties and political leaders to give peace a chance. What is paramount is the interest of the people of Imo State, and that interest will not be served if there is any form of violence. And again, turnout, it will be interesting to see the kind of turnout, considering the fact that the organized labor has since launched strike action in Imo State and asking both public and private sector workers to stay at home. But that should not extend to the people coming out to exercise their right to vote.
I mean, one thing is certain, and I'm happy you raised that point about Professor Sylvia Agu, the resident electoral commissioner in Imo State. In fact, the PDP and the Labour Party walked out on the stakeholders forum. And I think INEC should take all of these concerns because there's a talk going around town in Imo that she's actually a sister or she has close relations with, some stakeholders of a certain political party. And these are the things we should watch for the fairness of our electoral system. Extending this conversation, you remember when some resident electoral commissioners were appointed that had some leaning to some politicians. I think it's best for the sanctity of our electoral process, we try as much as possible to be seen as non-partisan and non-biased, especially those that run our elections. And that's why I keep referring all of us back to the recommendations of the Uwais report. But because for the want of time, I will not be able to expatiate more on that.